A special truth commission has been created in Tunisia to help victims under the country's former authoritarian leaders to share stories of torture, killing and other abuses. The first testimony heard by the panel aired on national television last Thursday and will continue this week. The commission was created to help reconcile Tunisians and consolidate the country's democratic gains made since the 2011 revolution. So far, more than 62,000 complaints have been received, and each one's being considered on a case-by-case basis. For more on this, we can now join Tasnim Idriss in Tunis. Tasnim's a civil society activist and postgraduate student at university. Tasnim, thanks very much for joining us this morning. You've met some of the victims. In fact, your own father himself will be testifying. In many cases, it must feel like reopening old wounds. How will this Truth Commission help these people?
Hello, thanks for having me. Well, there is something very important about coming to terms with one's past, which is you can't really get over a painful experience without openly talking about it. I mean, even psychologically speaking, these victims, at least those I know, need to let other Tunisians and the whole world know about their wounds and sorrows, because the main problem before the revolution actually was that the majority of people did not know what was happening in prisons, apart from those who were part of the system, but ordinary people were in complete ignorance, only viewing the fake peaceful surface of the Assad regime, so the victims were left alone to carry the burden. And now they need some help. Actually, during the public hearing session, they kept thanking the Commission for granting them the chance to openly talk about their wounds. And by the way, it's not only about opening up old wounds. I really believe that sharing these painful experiences is part of the healing process and is a fundamental step of the transitional justice that the Commission seeks to meet. It's also part of documenting the history of the nation that many seek to pervert.
Well, as you say, some of these people have been, many of them, been thanking the Commission, but there's been some resistance to it as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it may seem shocking that any patriotic Tunisian would resist the creation of the Truth and Dignity Commission, but the very notions of truth and dignity were crushed in pre-revolution Tunisia. That's why those who once belonged to the Assad regime vehemently attacked the Commission and put a lot of obstacles in its way. These people who were part of the system now feel seriously threatened by the Commission because their wrongful deeds will be exposed to the public. Some of these people are so-called intellectuals and actors who are mere puppets to the Assad regime and who are now still using the media to communicate their criticism to the Commission. But sadly, even some officials and politicians opposed the idea of the Commission, and the president of the Commission, Mrs. Sihem Ben Sadrine, was denied access to the official archives of the Republic because, according to these officials, they say it's more important to focus on reconciliation rather than digging into past stories, forgetting that reconciliation can never be founded on shaky grounds, not to mention that many of these accused officials actually have presumed their work after the last elections as if nothing happened. That's why the mothers of the martyrs, we heard them in public hearing sessions saying that they are seeing the murderers of their sons leading happy life as if nothing happened. So yeah, it's perfectly expected that the Commission faces criticism and resistance by these people who feel seriously threatened by justice. You know, in every revolution there are winners and losers, and the Commission is clearly on the side of the winners, so the losers are fearing it and making their best to tarnish its reputation.
And Tasnim, what's the overall goal of this commission then? Are we talking about perhaps legal recourse or compensation claims, or is this simply to close a chapter on the past?
Well, I think it's not only this. I believe the overall goal of this commission is to preserve national memory and to help achieve some important goals of the revolution, which are honoring the victims of the period between 1955 up to the revolution in 2011, holding criminals accountable for their deeds, and founding a strong ground for reconciliation. It's even going to help boost the Tunisian struggling economy, as it's a proof to foreign investors that Tunisia is successfully implementing a path for transitional justice and getting rid of the corrupt system. So I believe this commission is not about revenge. It's also not about closing a chapter on the past, as we need to provide the future generations with these documented testimonies so that they'll be aware of what happened and make sure they fight hard to prevent another dictatorial era. It's also not only about financial compensation. I believe it's about acknowledging the heroic sacrifices that have been made made, and honoring everyone who fought for a free Tunisia from all ideologies and political views, because in the end, all of them had one enemy, which was dictatorship, and one aim, which was free Tunisia.
Okay, Tasnim, many thanks for joining us this morning here on RFI. Tasnim Idriss on the line from Tunis there.